you ever notice how bad things can sound sometimes? Some recordings can sound?
Especially in hi-fi.
And especially with headphones, because like you don't have speakers in a room to like buffer or, calm things down a bit. You've got a speaker an inch away from your eardrum, and it is what it is right there. So, one of the things we key in on is seeing, one of the things we look at is what causes that to happen. And then we, of course, being headphone designers and engineers, figured out a way around that. Like maybe there's a way we could make what people call a turd more polished, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate because if there's music you like and it was just recorded badly, what, you just not listen to it now?
Yeah, I mean, you love this shit,
Yeah,
right?
right,
You want to
right.
listen to this, but yet everything you put it on, throw it on, just is like,
That was a frustration I had for actually a while. Like the higher up I went and the better quality stuff I got, some of the music I loved, I just couldn't listen to anymore.
In speakers and 2-channel speaker systems, it's the same thing. The higher up you go, the more curated your music tends to want to be. And, in some respects, that's a positive thing because you are trying to find good sounding music.
Yeah, you're becoming more discerning too.
Yeah, right.
So it shows experience, but
Yeah.
But it does end up that everybody's listening to the same stuff at every show, right?
Yeah,
you
right.
hear it from every room, and
yeah, how many
like-
times did I hear the Tenet soundtrack walking
it's
around?
like, yeah.
Yeah, you go to a high-end trade show, and you're right. You walk down the
Same.
hall, and everyone's playing the same,
Yeah.
pretty much the
Yeah.
same subset of tracks. Aside from special requests.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
the
know.
only time it doesn't happen is setting up and tearing down. Then people play what they actually listen to.
Yeah.
You hear it cranked.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
playing what we
distance.
really
Yeah,
like to
right,
hear,
right.
full volume.
Yeah.
But no, the reality of it is that it's something we key in on, and we understand it. People want, including ourselves, we want to listen to what we want to listen to, and so let's talk about how we go about that a little bit in terms of overall. I mean, what to look for, how to deal with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the primary thing that I notice is loudness compression. These days, it's prevalent, especially in pop music. It was bad in the late 90s, early 2000s, but
Yeah.
it still exists for sure, where they are expanding the track and making it louder to try to get it to match the peaks in the audio. And then you turn it up, and it's just a muddy mess. It's just terrible.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, especially if you go back to the 60s. That's the first thing you notice because they didn't really do that as much, where it's like doesn't sound compressed.
Yeah,
You know?
dynamic range.
Yeah.
In Rune, if you have a library of your own music, you can actually sort by dynamic range and find tracks that have higher dynamic range.
That's pretty cool.
It's a pretty phenomenal difference.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the first thing you notice actually when something's actually dynamic sounding.
That's true. I love oldies. I love stuff from the 60s and 70s. I think it's great. A majority of that was recorded on, tape. A lot of it was done through tube gear.
yeah,
And they didn't. I mean, they used. I think they used some forms of compression, but I don't think it was anything like today's digital standards where you could just squash that shit out.
Yeah, I'm sure everything was a lot simpler overall.
Yeah.
So, and that's how
Yeah.
it sounded. Now
Well-
everything's like you keep manipulating
Well,
everything.
reverb was run through the equivalent of a metal spring.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was analog.
So,
yeah. Well,
yeah, it was
these days
analog.
people will say, if you hear someone say, "Oh, this song is bricked," that's what they mean. It means that the whole waveform just fills the whole
Yeah.
the whole song. And there's examples where it doesn't. Like Billie Eilish's stuff today
Sure.
is severely dynamic. There's almost no compression there.
Yeah.
So it's like there are some that care, but I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, I was actually worried because Eric got you the Billie Eilish LP, and I'm like, how's this gonna? It's like some of the tracks, like tracking on that, seemed like it'd be, and it's not great.
Like it'll kick the cartridge out.
Yeah,
of the
yeah, it's
track.
like everything because you could see on the grooves where it's like, oh yeah, it's
Deep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's funny when you look at the people who aren't into vinyl. When you look at vinyl, you could tell,
Where they at?
kind of tell a shitty recording. I remember even back in the day, way back in the day when I was younger, they used to have the K-Tel label, and they tended to try to squeeze a lot of tracks on each side of
Right.
an album, right? Because you only typically have about 30 minutes a side, and so obviously the tiny lines at the grooves
You just
themselves would be
pack 'em.
very narrow. Yeah, and it just looks almost like a smooth album.
and that's the thing.
Like
and
nothing was there.
vinyl is already dynamically limited, and
Right.
then you cram even more on it.
Yeah,
So it's like,
right.
my current test for loudness compression is if it sounds great in my car, but sounds terrible through my headphones, then it's probably severely loudness compressed.
Yeah.
That is true. There's a lot of times that you hear something in your car and you're like, oh, this sounds pretty good. And then you get home and you're like, nope.
This song's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to narrow this down now let's talk about systems and why, there might be problems with some systems not being able to play through the bad stuff versus others. And, some of it has to do with resolution. A lot of it has to do with resolution. And resolution's kind of a difficult thing to explain to people if they haven't experienced it. And, some people equate resolution to brightness or the amount of highs in a system. Where, okay, I hear a lot of highs, therefore I hear a lot of more information, therefore it's more resolved. And that's kind of part of it. But the problem with that is you can have a skewed, what you'd call a spectral balance, where you have more highs relative to the bass or the low frequencies. And so it gives you a perception of having greater resolution. But the reality of it is you just don't have enough bass. And you get that with a lot of higher end systems, and you get a lot of that with a lot of cheap systems too. Bass is a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the foundation of music, and without it, things sound sizzly and bright.
Brightness is psychoacoustic too. So like if there's a lot of brightness, it's the only part of the sound that can like lean into your brain and make you uncomfortable or something like that. So stands out to you more, even if it isn't elevated at all.
And it doesn't take a lot. I
Right.
mean, we're talking a very small percentage relative to bass. You could deal with 10, 20, 50% increase in bass. But if you had even a 5% increase in highs, it'd be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So it's touchy.
Yeah, essentially that's what I was thinking. Most people probably equate poor recordings with just thin sound, no bass.
Right.
So
part of it's spectral balance, right? Yeah. So, I mean, in that sense, you're talking about through the whole gambit of the system, the capabilities of the amplifier. How much power do you have on tap to push the air that is required to create low frequency bass, and to a big respect the capability of the speaker or the headphone to produce low frequencies and that bass. So it's really a system approach that we look at the upper end of things, which is where we are here, and into some respects, because we tune and design the speaker drivers in our headphones, we've also come up with ways to avoid the headphone, what would you want to call it, being too forward in certain regions of the spectrum, right? Where it's annoying to people. It's just annoying. And there are areas, within audio that are just more annoying than not. There are.
Some of these songs, some of these tracks too that we were sampling, it doesn't really matter how resolving your stuff is. It's just going to sound like your flat wall because they've compressed it so bad that it's just all flat sound now. It's like, if anything, it gets worse. The more resolving and the higher end equipment you get, because it just accentuates how flat the song is. So it's like, when you get something really dirt cheap that has like a plus 5 dB in the bass or something, like the system is already compensating for that garbage. So.
Right. And sometimes you can't avoid a poorly recorded track. It is what it is, But, I found there's all kinds of tricks involved with that, too, in terms of setting up a proper system. And the speakers you choose. And if you're going to listen to stuff that's grungy or noisy or whatever, or was recorded in the 60s and 70s and already has gobs of distortion, or even more modern stuff, they add distortion because that's the sound they're after.
Right.
That's fine. That's cool. But you need to choose wisely the overall selection of the system. And that's one of the things, like our new JOAL model. Like we just came out with this a few months ago, and it's designed to be able to play through stuff like that, but yet not take away the enjoyment of the music. It plays the music well. It doesn't strip information or remove information. It doesn't accomplish it that way. But it has a spectral balance that overall allows you to play just about any genre and play through that. And again, we're fortunate enough to be able to be the designers of the speakers and the drivers, the planar drivers that are used in these things. And the fact that I like something like AC/DC, I come from rock and roll, classic rock. I like AC/DC. I like Journey. I like Styx. I like all the bands from there. I want to play them. And, and me coming from the 2-channel world, the high-end 2-channel world, as my speaker systems evolved, I had less and less fun with them.
Right.
I enjoyed my old music with my old system when I was a kid. than I did with today's modern system.
Exact problem.
You
A
know?
lot of people have that issue.
Yeah.
You know,
And it just got worse and worse as time went on.
I like metal, modern metal in particular, and a lot of distortion in that. And what ends up happening is, as that distortion is coming in, it starts peaking in weird treble regions. It can be very harsh. You know, people might call it sparkly or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's just a guitar, but it's so heavily affected
Yeah.
that it peaks in. But yeah, I was listening to Lamb of God, Laid to Rest, and it has this really cool intro where there's like a double bass hit, but in the TCs, the double bass was like, oh, there it is. Like it pokes in because all of there's so much information in it, and it's so jarbled and distorted that all of a sudden that like just kind of settles in. But in Joel, I was like, okay, well, that's the guitar, that's the bass. There's like actual instrument separation, and then the double bass hit, which is actually a triple bass hit, like goes and like pulls you through the song, and like becomes part of the story. And it's like I've been missing that for quite a while on my hi-fi stuff.
Yeah, most headphones will just rip into that, and the TC, like the older TC model, was designed for ultimate resolution.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem. I mean, with it, comes that catch-22 of sorts, where do you really want to hear your music? So
yeah,
again,
that song is essentially unlistenable.
Yeah.
On the TCs, I tried different pads and everything, and it's just there's so much information there.
Yeah.
And like I could, at a low volume, I could pick it out, but that's not meant to be played low volume.
And that's the thing, though. Like that type of headphone was designed for people who aren't listening to that, and they
Right.
know they're not. They want, they get some really nice recorded classical or jazz or some live, really nice lives. They might have a tube amp to go with it to make things more.
Yeah, I mean, I was using our reference system too.
Yeah.
Some nice warm
Which
tubes.
isn't going to soften things too much.
Takes you a mile with the TCs for sure. But
And that's the thing, when you get in the upper end of things, you really need to evolve the system around your tastes in music. And, you could do the same thing at the lower end of things too, at lower price points. It's the same deal. It's really what you're listening to and what the capabilities of the speakers are. But that's the cool thing is, like, we have, you think about our range of headphones. We go from crazy resolution to really good resolution, but yet it's not annoying you. And it's extreme. There's an extreme balance that has to be created in order to get away with that.
Yeah, I think the word is clinical, right?
Clinical on the top top end of things for sure. Yeah, you don't want it to be too clinical. But again, we've seen a lot of speaker and headphone designs that are so damped in terms of dropping the top frequencies to try to do that, that now it's boring and lifeless.
Right.
You're not getting staging. You're not getting, you can't pick out the instruments. You can't enjoy the double bass, like you said. Like, you don't hear the resolution in the bottom end. It's just congealed into just one blob, almost like compression does.
Yeah.
Same deal. You don't get dynamics anymore.
That's true. It is like a fine line, It's like you don't want to be annoyed by the top end, but you don't want to kill it too much where it's just like dead.
And we see that a lot in particularly in headphones, where that's the nature of the design. They dumb it down to a point where the whole frequency, the whole range is dumbed down, and it might do bass okay or well, or it might be boomy and appease people who want extended bass, and it might tilt the spectrum to the bass in order to cover up what's going on up top. But in the end, it's not really natural sounding. So it's a very, very difficult balance to create in a system and in a speaker system in particular, to be able to play, from the 60s, 70s, 80s on up and play it well. Very difficult.
I had an interesting one when I was searching. The Strokes, is an album in which I go to because it seems like it's poorly recorded, right? It's very distorted, very echoey, and like in particular, like the guitars and the vocals, they both have the same distortion. So sometimes the vocals bleed with the guitars. So it's really unique. And what I found is, I've been skipping it because it just bothers me. But what I've found is that on the JOAL, it's actually incredibly well recorded and mastered to a very high level. It's insanely dynamic.
Which is crazy.
They just compressed it on purpose. There's an art form to it, and it goes through the whole album that way. And so yeah, like just being able to listen to the lead singer's vocals, Julian Casablancas, he has a really nice, rich texture to how he sings. And being able to enjoy that alongside of all of the compression, distortion, and everything.
Really.
I mean, it was very cool.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, you're basically disassembling the recording and going back to the studio, and that's one of the reasons the cliches on like a JOAL headphone is, a master tape sound, because we know what a master tape sounds like. We were listening to a master tape of Led Zeppelin, which was recorded in the 70s. And it's the actual tape. It's a real original tape from
Yeah.
the 70s, from that was, and it sounds so different from the stuff you hear on the radio or
Yeah.
on, streaming and stuff from the, so different through a reel-to-reel player, the analog version of it. It's crazy.
I went through every digital source I could possibly find, trying to match to that master tape, and I could not find one that was even close.
No.
We did Apple Music, Tidal had 3 versions. Like, nothing sounded like that master.
Over the years, it's been dumbed
Yeah.
down
But
to
however-
fit the format.
All of those digital services used that master.
Right.
It came from that.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, well-
Well,
Or
originally,
one of the
originally-
3
someone
tapes or
You're right.
something, right? Like,
The originally it
Yeah.
came from that.
Right.
What's happened in between?
yeah, ours was a 1-to-1,
Yeah.
thankfully,
Yeah.
so it was the original. But
Yeah. But that's the cool thing about, us understanding that sound and being designers and being able to translate that to a speaker system or a headphone system that can bring you back to the master tape on a lot of recordings. Like I'm listening to this stuff, and I've been listening to stuff for decades, like AC/DC, since I was a kid. And it's breaking apart those songs into what I perceive to be those guys in the studio laying it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never heard it like that before. Correction, I shouldn't say that. I've heard it like that in 2-channel systems with reel-to-reel and with tape. I've heard it like that before. But
Right.
beyond that, you don't hear it like that anywhere else. Like a majority of people, let's say 99.999% of the people on the planet never hear it like that. Because who has a reel-to-reel with a master tape of your favorite band? Not too many people.
No.
It's out there. You can get it. Tapes are $500 a piece.
Well,
You can get it.
Some songs and albums can just be too far gone. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication. I was talking about it before this. It's
Can't fix it.
bricked is the correct definition for that entire album. I tried. Now Joel makes it not inoffensive. It's actually listenable, right? And I use the cheat of using the suede bass ported pads to lean into it a little bit
Give it a little
harder.
bass bump.
Because I mean, even the bass is flat. They got wrecked on that. There's a remaster that's okay for some of the main songs, but it's still not. It's very flat. It's like I read a review saying that they said that the sounded like wallpaper, and I completely get it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like their main song. It's like their main thing. It's
Yeah.
like Red Hot Chili
Yeah,
Peppers hit,
and-
right?
Yeah,
Is
what are you
that
going to
album?
do now?
Like-
It was made
Yeah.
like that, and now that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a similar thing is a song everybody's heard, or an album everybody's heard, Michael Jackson's Thriller. Every time you hear it, it's not like it was poorly recorded, but it has a like 80s pop kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
But on Joel, it's like kind of makes it more listenable today.
Like everyone out there, we're all trying to enjoy our music. And the cool thing about having different generations right here in the same location and designing headphones is that we each have different styles and enjoyment and appreciation for what is our music.
Yeah.
I happen to be old school. I like my 60s, 70s, and early 80s and stuff. And, along with more modern stuff, female vocals, male vocals, jazz, blues. And I really appreciate really good recordings. But you guys are all over the place and stuff of what you listen to.
Yeah. In general, we're not elitists who only listen to perfectly recorded
No.
stuff.
No.
We
Almost-
listen to just about everything.
Almost never.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, like you said that,
Occasionally,
but like you'll still watch like an AC/DC concert on YouTube
I love
from
it.
14 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is the opposite of properly recorded.
With a big tube amp? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I mean, like we like to have fun and listen to cool music, regardless of how well it's mastered. We just want to be able to enjoy it while we're doing it.
Well, and we're trying to convey it to others, and that's the difficult thing, to let them enjoy the music. And so we're hopeful that, by talking about this, by explaining to people what to expect and what what our goals are in our company designs. It's you know, hell, you know, it's real simple, really. If you're not sure what to get, contact us. Call you. You know, Norm's here. He mans the phones. He's in charge of sales. Give us a call or email us, and or hell, even just go to our site and hit the chat thing and start talking. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple. Say, what do you listen to? You know, what type of music do you listen to? What do you have for a system? And we could point you in a direction. But bottom line is that, you know, we're trying to help everyone enjoy what they listen to here, and we're trying our hardest, really, in our designs, our latest designs, to be able to be as universal as possible with almost all genres. Extremely difficult to do, but we've done it.
Yeah, JOAL is accessible. It's really
pretty cool. So, I mean, you know, and we have ways of tuning it with ear pads and so on that are very unique to the industry and in general. So, yeah, we can tailor a sound for your music and stuff, and it's fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun at all age groups. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We have people that come in once in a while, visitors, you know, that are in the industry, and they come to our place, and we, you know, they don't necessarily get to play with all these ear pad options and all this stuff that we have here. You know, they might have tried one headphone one way at a show somewhere, and that's it. And it's like, oh man, we have, you know, at this point, we've got all kinds of angles we can go at in directions
we have 10 SKUs of pads.
I know,
and they all sound different.
Yeah, it's getting stupid kind of now, and all the bins.
It is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy.
It did make me think. Do you think there is people that exclusively only listen to audiophile recordings? Literally,
absolutely.
They never go to anything.
Well, I know I've worked with people that listen to only one song.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, well.
Now that's okay. Yeah. That's pretty hardcore in one respect. It's crazy in another.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have made it to the end of this video, we're going to tell you the secret here. We'll tell you how something like a JOAL can function like it does. All right. I'll tell you the secrets. It's pretty basic. One, the transducer, the driver, is probably the most refined driver we've ever made. It's not dumbed down in this headphone, even though it's our lowest cost one. It's an extremely good planar speaker magnetic driver. Two, we're using ear pads and materials in ear pads like no one's ever used before. High quality materials. We make them here. We design them acoustically to work with our drivers. And we're able to tune the sound even further of that driver to work in conjunction with our ear pads that we make here to get it the way that we think you might like it to hear. And really, that the combination of the two, having a really high resolution capable driver, but yet have it smoothened and softened by the acoustic presence of the ear pads tuned perfectly for that driver, and the enclosure too, and what we make the enclosures out of, and the rear of them, and it's all a package, and even down to the cabling we supply. This whole thing is a system. The whole headphone is a system as one, so that when you plug it into whatever it is you have, we know we have complete control over that playback system. The room, the environment, the resolution, the cabling, it's all set for you. All right? And then obviously you can play with whatever you want to play with in terms of electronics, but the point is that we've got this down to one hell of a science in what we're presenting you. And then to top it off, the real secret with JOAL too, not only did I didn't let it all out of the bag yet, because that planar driver is extremely capable in terms of resolution to an extent of any of our other models. If you change the ear pads out to, let's say, the leather-based versions that come with our higher-end stuff, and base-ported options come with, which are options on all our headphones, right? You get the full range of resolution out of the same headphone. So it's capable of going from really good sounding to extreme resolution for people as they grow into their systems, upgrade their chains, upgrade the electronics, appreciate different types of music because of now they're hearing their music, they're really enjoying more music. So you think about it, the headphone itself is designed just like a good speaker system. It's designed to grow with you and grow with your system. And it's really, at this price point, I'm not aware of anything in the market that exists like this. And with JOAL, the beauty of it is that it's so non-reactive to systems that you can plug it into just about anything and appreciate your music with it. And that's so cool. I mean, I don't know any other way to explain this to people other than they need to experience it. I don't know any other way. I don't know. So on that note, I think we covered it.
Yep.
If you made it to here, you got it all.
Joel, the jack of all listening.
Jack of all listening. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.